I don't understand how they expected me to push when I could not feel anything. This was probably the worst part of the entire experience, was them pushing out my blood clots. Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. So this is a very exciting video because I will be telling you all about my birth experience, you know, labor and delivery, all of that good stuff. So if you see me looking down, it's because I have a bunch of notes, y'all. My actual due date was November 14th, but at my last visit, I believe it was on like a Monday, my doctor ended up saying that she wanted to induce me a week early. I had my induction scheduled for the 7th of November. Even as a first-time mom, I was not going crazy and overpacking. Like literally, I knew the hospital would provide certain things like Pampers and wipes and even formula if you needed and stuff like that. So I tried to pack the like bare minimum, and you know, that's what I did. So I had my bag, and my bag pretty much consisted of my things and the baby things, and then my husband had his own bag that consisted of, you know, his personal items, stuff like that. So yeah, I just want to start that off by saying your girl did not overpack. So when we first got there, of course, the first thing we did was get our room situated, and the room that we ended up going in was the actual delivery room, which I wasn't aware of at first, but eventually, you know, I realized that, okay, this is the room that I'm gonna be pushing, y'all. When I got there, I was not dilated. She again told me that I wasn't dilated, but she also told me that I was kind of like further along in the process. My cervix was thinner, but it was still not open. Like I was still not dilated, but I had just made a little bit more progress from, you know, a few days before. So the first thing they did was hook me up to the IV and everything, and y'all, this was the first time that I ever got poked in my hand, and oh my gosh, I was so scared for that. I know y'all are probably like, you about to push a whole baby out, like you're literally scared of one little needle. I'm usually not afraid to get, you know, like my blood drawn or whatever from my arm, but this was, like I said, the first time I got it in my hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this was like the beginning of just like, I'm like, why did it have to start with this? But the nurses were like very reassuring, and she told me like, you know, it's not that bad. It did hurt, but she ended up putting it in my right hand, and yeah, so that was the very first thing. So the very next step was they pretty much had to ripen my cervix. So what my doctor did was something called the propulsory, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm gonna put it somewhere on the screen. She inserted it, and when I had looked it up, it said you were supposed to keep it in for 24 hours, but my doctor only kept it in for around 12 hours. So that is pretty much supposed to ripen my cervix and get me ready for delivery. I was kind of bummed about having to like wait that long, but I kind of prepared myself because I knew going in that if I wasn't even, you know, dilated yet, that of course he probably wasn't gonna come until the next day. They also, during this time, they put me on a liquid diet, so I could only drink stuff like water, soda, juices. I could have jello and also broth. So pretty much that is what I was drinking, and it wasn't the best, but your girl had to do, you know, I had to do what I had to do. Another thing that I just wanted to mention during this time, when you're going through delivery and you have gestational diabetes, you still have to check your blood. So when I had got there, I was like, you know, I already had my own personal stuff, but the nurse said that I couldn't use my own stuff to check my blood. I had to use their stuff, and they had to check it for me. So mind you, I'm on this liquid diet, and I also had to check my blood. So of course, like, my blood levels are gonna be out of whack. So pretty much the whole time my blood levels were very low. They weren't, you know, past the limit low. I think the limit is like 60. They were most of the time they were like in the 70s, but that's just something to look out for if you do have gestational diabetes. So time just went on. I probably took a nap or two. My husband was already there, and then my mom ended up showing up not too long after. So pretty much it was just like a waiting game from there. Fast forward to the next morning around 6 o'clock a.m. the doctor broke my water. So when my water was broken, I was 2 centimeters dilated. Around 2 hours after my water was broken, I asked for the epidural. When it comes to the epidural, I already knew going in that I wanted to get an epidural. I already kind of knew what to expect with the epidural because I actually was there for my sister when she had my nephew. So, you know, I kind of was able to see the process, and I knew how the epidural worked, you know, like how, because I saw the nurses and doctors do everything to my sister, so I kind of knew what to expect. So I'm not going to say I was scared. I was a little nervous when he was putting the needle actually in my back, and I actually kind of like shook a little bit, and I was afraid that like I messed something up. So when you're getting epidural, please try to stay as still as possible so that, you know, nothing will mess up with your spine or you won't have back issues or anything like that. The only thing, y'all, is after getting the epidural, I thought like all the pain was just gonna go away. That was a lie. I don't know about other people's experience, but with my experience, I felt every single contraction with the epidural. I knew this was not supposed to happen because, like once again I said, my sister, she had gotten the epidural too, and she told me like she didn't experience any pain from like, you know, the stomach down, like, and of course like my legs and everything became numb and I couldn't walk and stuff like that, but everything in my stomach area I still felt. And I'm like, why am I still feeling all of these contractions? Like, I'm not supposed to be feeling this. Like, I have this epidural, what is going on? I had told the nurse, of course, and she pretty much was like, they were like birthing pains and stuff like that, but no one actually really told me why I was still experiencing the contractions with the epidural. But I was just in so much pain, I didn't even like bother to really, you know, dig too deep into it. I was trying to thug it out, y'all. I really was. It got to a point where I was like, you know what, y'all gotta give me more. So the nurse ended up calling the person who did my epidural, and all he did was like, I guess, give me something stronger. He said it was something stronger. Y'all, whatever he gave me, it did not work. It probably felt a little bit better for like 5 minutes, and then after that it went right back to me feeling every contraction. About 2 hours after that, it seemed like everything was happening in like 2-hour increments, and I made sure that I was tracking like the time and everything. So about 2 hours after that, I ended up being 5 centimeters dilated. 2 hours after that, I was 7 centimeters dilated, and at that point I believe the nurse did like practice pushes with me and pretty much was like helping me push and showing me like how to breathe and everything like that. That lasted only for like maybe 10-15 minutes, and then my actual doctor ended up coming in, and that's when everything started, y'all. Don't forget that throughout this whole time I'm still checking my blood. I was checking my blood up until it was time to push. The pushing started, y'all, and this was a very rough time for me because the doctor kept telling me, you know, push, you know, telling me what to do, you got it, you know. Everybody was around me encouraging me, but y'all, I could not feel anything. Like, I don't understand how they expected me to push when I could not feel anything from pretty much, you know, my hip down. So I'm trying to listen to the doctor, I'm trying my hardest, but it just was not working for me. So pushing lasted, y'all, probably around 4 hours. It was just so hard for me to push him out. Like, it was just so hard. It got to a point where I was using so much of like my energy. My ribs started hurting from like trying to push him out. And I remember someone saying like his head, like we could see his hair. My son had a lot of hair, y'all, just FYI, but they kept saying they could see his hair. So in my head, I'm like, okay, y'all can see his hair, that means like he's almost out. No, they could see his hair for a few hours, y'all. So his head was just like stuck there almost. They kept telling me stuff, I guess, to encourage me, but I didn't feel like I was making any progress. So y'all, at one point I was like, I give up. Like, I don't know what y'all think I'm gonna do, but he's not coming out. And it's funny, like, looking back at it now, I didn't have a choice. Like, you know, I had to push him out unless they decided to stop and give me a C-section. But he was coming out some type of way. I was just so like frustrated with myself pretty much, because you know, I couldn't feel anything, and it was just so hard to push him out. More time went on, and it got to a point where I remember the doctor actually telling the nurse like to check on my baby, because he was just down in that one position for so long. So, and I think she tried to do it like kind of secretively, but you know, I catch on to every little thing, even when I'm in pain. So I noticed that she had told the nurse that, so the nurse had checked on my baby just to make sure, like, you know, everything was good, his heart rate and everything was good. And also, of course, during this time I was also feeling all of my contractions. When it comes to contractions, I would say contractions just feel like really bad period cramps. In my mind, I wanted to give up, but I knew I couldn't give up, because you know, he had to come out. Like, there was no way around it. He was coming out. My baby finally came out. And one thing that I can say is I know that my like labor and delivery process was rough, because my mom actually had 3 kids, and she had all of her kids natural, and she still told me that my labor and delivery was rough. So if a mother is saying that who had all of her 3 kids natural, that tells you something. As soon as he came out, they literally laid him right on my chest, and it was just like the most beautiful, why is my camera about to die? It was the most beautiful experience ever, you all. And it's crazy because literally as soon as they put him on my chest, my baby stopped crying. Another thing that happened after they put him on me is I noticed, like, I started feeling something very warm, like around my stomach area. Y'all, my baby peed on me as soon as he came out, and I was just like, oh my gosh. You would pee on me as soon as you come out. During that time, they got the placenta out, and I also needed to get stitches, y'all. I honestly was trying to avoid getting stitches so much, but you know, it is what it is. I asked the nurse like how bad was it, and she said it was I only needed like 2 or 3 stitches, so it wasn't, you know, like an extreme tear or anything where it went all the way down to my butt. It was very a very small tear, so I was glad about that. But after that, they ended up like lifting my chair up, you know, so I won't be laying down anymore, y'all. And as soon as they lifted me up, I got like the worst headache, one of the worst headaches of my life. Like, it was like everything just ran to my brain and was just beating on my brain, y'all. It was just so bad. So once I told the nurse that I had a really bad headache, she ended up giving me medicine. Once she gave me that medicine, this is when they started with the pushing of my stomach to get the blood clots out. Y'all, I kid you not, this was probably worse than contractions. Like, this was probably the worst part of the entire experience, was them pushing out my blood clots. So for those who don't know, after birth, you know, sometimes blood clots can form in your stomach. So what the nurses had to do every 15 minutes, y'all, is literally dig into my stomach and push, like, just push them out. And this was like, ooh, it was just excruciating pain, y'all. Like, it was just so bad. It hurt so bad. The very first time, I believe I cried. That's how bad it hurt from them like pushing, because mind you, like, my stomach, I was already in all this pain. My stomach is still hurting, my ribs are sore, everything is still hurting at this point, and now y'all are like pushing on my stomach more. And I know it is all for, you know, a good cause. Like, they're doing that because if you leave any blood clots in there after birth, like, you know, it can cause serious issues. So I know that it was for a good reason, but y'all, like, I swear I wanted to just slap every nurse that was pushing on my stomach. And some nurses push harder than others. Like that very first nurse, she was digging in there, y'all. Like she was making sure them clots came out. Another thing that I want to touch on is the shakes. Comment down below if you have ever experienced this. But after labor, after, you know, pushing my baby out, I got the shakes. My entire body just could not stop shaking. Like literally I was just shaking. My shaking was so bad that I couldn't like hold him some of the times, or if I did hold him, I couldn't hold him for like too long because like I was just shaking too much. Another thing that they actually did when it comes to my baby is they also had to check my baby's blood because of my gestational diabetes, and I was aware of this because I did my research, you know, on Google and stuff like that. So that was something that I was kind of dreading as well. But you know, I didn't want my baby to be in any type of pain. So once he was out, time had went by. It was time to take the epidural out. Now, I didn't actually feel really them actually like taking the needle thing out. But what hurt the most was them taking that tape off. Y'all, if you know, you know. She was going slow, like she was pulling it off slow because of course if she ripped it, it really would have hurt. But it hurt so bad when she was peeling the tape off of my back, and I was just like, ow, the whole time. I was like, ow, 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 it hurts. Like, the whole time I was just I was just going through a lot of pain. And like I said, y'all, I think I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So if it hurt me, I would think it would hurt like the next person. So my baby was born November 8th. We ended up leaving the hospital November 10th. Just to talk about my baby a little bit, my baby came out with a head full of hair, which I knew because I think on one of my last ultrasounds, the ultrasound tech had told me that, well, she had showed me like his hair through the ultrasounds. I was like, I have a feeling he's gonna have a lot of hair when he comes out. So he had a head full of hair. When he came out, literally his eyes were wide open. Like he was just looking around, like he wanted to see everything and everybody in the room. He was 8 pounds and 5 ounces, and I'm almost positive if I went like another week, he would have been more than that. But yeah, I had a pretty big baby, and he's a pretty big baby now, to be honest. 5:10 p.m. is when my handsome baby boy came out. With some other like stuff here and there that I'm starting to remember that I may not have touched on in this video, but I think I covered like most of it. I just thank God every day for my son. That pretty much concludes this video. If y'all can relate to anything that I dealt with in this video, comment down below and let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next Saturday. Bye.